Let's now proceed to, that passes, and let's proceed now to item 7C. This is updates by Park County and the towns of Fairplay and Alma and the Park County Senior Coalition. Shall we just follow along the order that's presented there?
I think that's fine. We didn't have a set order. I know Jenny's here at the Park County Senior Coalition. Jody's going to introduce another guest that we have online. That's another AAA service provider as well. We didn't have a final confirmation when we printed the agenda, so we don't have the name of the organization at point here. But yeah, we keep going.
Andy, we can follow in any order you'd like to.
Okay, it's ready to go. I don't know if Commissioner Elster, you want to say a few words, and we can.
Well, you mean about the Senior Coalition and everything they're doing?
And other things related that you want to.
You know, it's I always have to say something, because it was a couple of years ago that our Senior Coalition was totally falling apart, and it was because of I think PPACG and actually forcing the issue, because as county commissioners we didn't have a whole lot to say about it. We could whine, which we were doing quite a lot of. Jody's predecessor was helping us whine, but it got down to a point where it was broken in Park County, and PPACG took a very difficult position and said, we are not going to fund you unless you get your act together. And that kind of woke everybody up. And we now have a director who is, in my feeling, absolutely spectacular. The Senior Coalition is getting back. It's working really hard. I had conversations last night with some people over on the Bailey side, because, you know, we've got this pass in between two population centers, and the Bailey side has most of it. And they have the Platte Canyon area senior citizens. I can't think of the name of it right now. And they asked me, they said, you know, we're thinking maybe of just kind of disbanding because Jenny's doing such a great job. I told them, I don't want you to disband because you're kind of a local group, but yes, work with the Senior Coalition and become a much better, stronger group for Park County, and bring the two sides of the county together where we actually can say everybody is being served. And I think that's where they're heading. And after that, I'll keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, and if you want to, I don't know if you want to expand on anything else, kind of Park County related as far as other priorities, maybe outside of the AAA realm.
Well, the biggest priority I think we have is housing, just like about anybody. We live next to the big dog in housing and short-term rental, Summit County. And everybody thinks, well, Denver is Summit County has got, I don't know, 10,000 short-term rental units in the county. It's absolutely amazing the problems they have, which of course creates a problem on our side because we need housing. We need a lot of housing to be able to fit in. So that is one of our biggest problems is housing, and trying to figure out what we can do for, you know, seniors are one, but our workforce, because we have a heck of a problem keeping a workforce. We've got some initiatives going. I have discovered there are some agencies that make government look like it moves quickly. It's not PPACG, it's some of the other people we're working with. And, you know, we've got a couple of projects, but it's, to me, the biggest issue is housing. And then the second one, of course, is transportation, which they're working on. And, you know, they get inside Park County. Yes, we have, you know, areas trying to get to Fairplay. Our clinic at Fairplay is now approved by the VA to do VA things, which has helped quite a lot, because instead of our residents having to go down to Colorado Springs or to Denver, they can come to Fairplay. But then how do we get them there? But I've also, there's an issue with people wanting to get to Colorado Springs from this side of the county. Other side of the county is not quite the same. RTD is starting to ramp back up on the bus routes so people can get down to Denver if they want to ride early in the morning, come back in the afternoon. And we do have other things, but trying to provide transportation for people to get from here to Colorado Springs is one of the big ones. I think Buena Vista is another one. But you look around and we have a grocery store in, in Fairplay. Well, that's the only grocery store in Park County. So that's an issue. We have in Fairplay, we have a clinic. Absolutely great. We created a health services district. There's a sales tax associated with it, which keeps our clinic running. We're adding a pharmacy, which is unbelievable because it's, we've never had a pharmacy. Back maybe when the hospital was here, but that was so long ago. So we're adding a lot of those services, but it's just, a lot of it revolves around the lack of workforce housing. We can open someplace up, but unless you can have, get someone to work there, it doesn't stay open, and that's our businesses are having a lot of trouble with that.
If I could ask a question, because short-term rentals and so forth, big issue all over the place. And it seems to me like there's a growing number of public agencies that are starting to implement some type of regulations, less severe, more severe, whatever it might be. I have the understanding that several have done that within PPACG. I'd like to just find out who has implemented those. There we go. So the city of Colorado Springs.
We're in the process.
Park is in the process.
Yeah, Park County
Has one implemented. Park County has one. Fairplay has one, and I know that. Yeah, Green Mountain Falls, you guys just approved one, right? So it's a good number. I can tell you that El Paso County is in an internal conversation about short-term rentals, and I have asked the staff there to try to get what others in the PPACG environment have done in their neighborhoods to kind of get a sense of what people are considering.
Sure, and I'm happy to, Mayor Dixon sent me theirs just a couple of days ago. I haven't sent it out to the full board, but if others want to send their ordinances my way, I'm happy to share them out to members of the board and the city and town county managers as well. So they're all working off the same recent adoptions.
I can tell you, we have accumulated a wealth of information from other jurisdictions for our consideration. We're in the process of trying to come to some consensus. We shared each other a lot of information about what others have done. Not sure what that, it may be consolidated and helpful. If it is, I'll look at it again, and if it would be of value, I'll share that with you, Ian. Would that be all right?
Oh, yeah,
You
absolutely.
can share it with others.
Yeah, one of the things we found, and we did the same thing through a different the tourism group got together, and so a lot of the ski resorts were involved, where short-term rentals is part of their plan. It's just gotten out of control, and it really comes down to some of the communities we work with is the amount of hotel rooms you have and how much tourism you actually have. So there's communities like Buena Vista who's trying to manage their short-term rentals because they don't have hotel rooms, so they need those spaces for people to stay because their tourism has exploded. Cripple Creek, we've got hotels going up. And so for us, the short-term rentals is an important business concept, but we don't think we need to grow until the community grows because we have hotel rooms. So it really depends on the community and what is available, and what your tourism looks like.
And then it all boils down to balance.
Yeah.
That's the hard part.
El Paso County held a town hall with the Cascade Association, and we had an amazingly huge amount of attendance, like about 150 people from the Cascade area. Yeah. And they were expressing
everybody that's left, right?
So now there were short-term rental owners there expressing concern that they would be overregulated, and then there were a lot of people there expressing concern that they don't have enough housing. And there was some statistics presented, and I think it did include Green Mountain Falls, but in that area of approximately 1,400 homes that are available, 500 of them were short-term rentals. So about a third of the entire housing stock in that area is STRs.
Well, that's when you look at it, Robb County, Steamboat Springs and all of that. Steamboat Springs has an issue with short-term rentals. Route County doesn't, because they're prohibited. Flat out, you cannot have a short-term rental in unincorporated Route County. So you have, that one, you have Denver, which says, yes, you can do short-term rental, but it has to be in your primary residence. Period. You can't have a house that you're using a short-term rental. So it's kind of all over the board as to, who does what, and who's trying. But as I say, Summit County has got, I believe, over 10,000 units, which is, from a standpoint of taxes, it's kind of nice for the sales tax. But that was the task force on tax policy last year looked at short-term rental, and really it's a commercial business. And what would it take if you taxed it commercial? And that would be, I think we came up with a huge amount of additional funding for Summit County and their school districts if they, if the legislature changed that, which was that whole discussion. I don't think the discussion is over. I think it's going to continue on for a few years. I've heard this year that there's going to be a bill that is going to require any agency that lists short-term rentals be licensed with the state and provide the list of short-term rentals to the state. So a county then would be able to say, okay, Airbnb, this is all of theirs, VBRO, these are all of theirs. And any other group that does that has to give that information to the state, so the counties then can start identifying them, because just trying to identify what house is a short-term rental is a huge deal. If you're in a metro area where you got a lot of neighbors around, that's not too bad. But when your average lot is 5 acres and nobody sees who drives up and down the driveway, it's really difficult to get a handle on it. So we license them in Park County. We've got up to, I think, 350 applicants now, but we anticipate that there's 1,300 in the county. So
We use a software that
that's
drills through those advertising sites to pick up properties that are within our jurisdiction.
Yeah.
To reach out to them so that everyone's on the same playing field. So that's
we did that too.
did you? Great.
But this is having the state have it a requirement.
I see, yes.
So then the counties can access that database for free. So, any money you're spending, because we did the same thing. We hired someone to help us identify, but it's kind of a, yes, we think we got them all. But this way, the biggest players would have to give you the numbers. But other than that, Park County is a beautiful place. You're all at, close to 10,000 feet. So, if you have trouble breathing, that's tough. You drive down the hill really fast, but.
Dave, can I ask you a question about your ordinance and short-term?
Sure.
You mentioned you've got about 350 registered, but you think there's around 1,300, which implies what, a 25% compliance approximately with your ordinance. Are you being proactive at the county? Yeah, the next stage of it is, and actually we had this discussion driving over, is the added manpower of enforcement at the moment you decide to regulate. So you're saying you're doing it now, but what does that look like for you guys?
Well, of course, we're slow on the uptick because we didn't have enough people here to do that. As you start getting money in, then you can start saying, hey, we can really justify having someone in charge of that. And we're now down to a point where we're starting to issue letters to people that we have a pretty good idea they're a short-term rental and haven't licensed. So we send them a letter and say, you've got this period of time to license it. If you don't, there is I think it's $1,000 a day fine, which we're hoping encourages them to do that. And, it can be a summons rather than having to take it through the court. But our fee is it's $600 to license for the first time. And then every year after that, it's $200. So, we're trying to be reasonable, but we've got to get a handle on it. Of course, in rural areas like us, when it's a well and septic, that is our problem. because you have 18 people in a house that can really hold 6. And they don't understand that you have a well, that if everybody takes a shower at once, it may dry temporarily, it has to recharge, and you've got a septic system that if you have those 18 people take a shower, now you're sending it down the road. So it's all of that, but
So what we did, Commissioner Stone, is we've contracted with Granicus, which a lot of cities have been contracting with them, and they manage that capacity. They'll submit the letters and everything for you. Obviously, it's a contract, but it does help you with capacity instead of hiring a staff person contracting. So they do 70 different sites. There's 100 that they have access to, but they do 70 sites to try to determine what your usage is. It doesn't, what we found is people are going underground now, and so they're renting their short-term rentals out via email. And so they're going through their cousins and relatives and friends around the country and getting their houses. So they're still avoiding the business tax, lodging tax, all of that.
Granicus, how do you spell that?
Granicus.
I think the other thing that I've heard that they're doing is somebody is like, oh, yeah, I'm leasing it for 6 months, but then they are leasing it out on. Yeah.
Yes, so I can get it to you, Kelly.
Thank you.
One of the things that Green Mountain falls implemented is for requiring a licensed short-term rental, supposed to have license number in any advertisement.
Yes. Yes,
Oh.
we have to.
And
That's
that-
in our regulations,
Yeah.
or proposed regulations. that we can't seem to agree.
And that should assist us. Small community, we're gonna know right away, pretty much.
And one last question on, and I've read your guys' ordinance, but on the glamping side in Teller County, commercial camping outside of a permitted area is not allowed. Assuming you have something similar at Park.
we've got land use and as far as if you're going to do a campsite, you have to go through all of it. If you have a house and you can't let people camp on that property. I mean, there's some things around it that we kind of had to, because it's like, yeah, but my grandkids come up and they like to pitch a tent and camp out on the property, and we kind of, yeah, you know, so we've got some things around how we do that to allow, you know, family members type thing. But if you aren't related, then that's where you start getting into,
We have,
you're renting the space.
you know, we have a specific camping ordinance that, you know, addresses, well, it helps us with squatters, number one, but then also is, you know, it limits the amount of time that somebody can camp on their own property, but no commercial is allowed whatsoever per the ordinance.
Yeah,
So-
and residential, that's the way ours. And we do have it, our camping is you can camp on your property from May 1st through October 31st or something like that, but you have to remove your camper. But you can see how effective that is. So,
Question, I don't know if this even exists, but does anybody know of anywhere in the nation, any kind of incentivizing programs to help people who just have these short-term rentals that are sitting empty to actually serve a workforce, or
yes, there are a few places in Colorado that do that.
do you know anything about, are they effective?
Not really. You know, it's a case that's expensive to do, and you get one house. I know, I think Summit County was looking at that. I believe Route County is doing something like that too, but you know, the resources you have are kind of limited. Aspen may be doing it.
Some of, you know, my thoughts and comments, and you may have discussed it briefly when I had to step out and take this phone call, but you know, on the one hand, you've got private property owners who have free rights to use their property as they see fit. And then you have on the other hand, going to such a place where you really have kind of moved from a land use decision for a residential area into a commercial operation that really now is usurping design that local public agencies do to have good environments, good neighborhoods, and a balance of whatever is needed. And this is now the application of a new technology, these smartphones and this kind of stuff that have enabled this. So this is actually kind of, in my mind, a technology development that has kind of now embedded itself into what a lot of local governments have been doing for a long time to try to manage, proper balance between different kinds of products. So this now gets down to, when is it still a private function and when is it a commercial operation? I don't think that's been answered yet.
Yeah, well, we have in our
Yeah.
land use, if it's residential, you can't have a commercial business. You can't have a home business, but we have limitations around, what type of activity you can do. So if you're doing a pottery shop in your home, you can do it to a certain point, but then it becomes commercial. And if you're in a residential, it doesn't work anymore. And what's happening is people are taking residential and turning it into a commercial activity. And the commercial activity now is in a residentially zoned district. So that is one of the problems you have is, okay, how do we do that? How do you figure that out? Because, I'm a strong believer in property rights, but I've had a lot of people come up to me, especially that live up in Almond, some of those areas, that say, we don't recognize a neighborhood anymore because it's now mostly short-term rentals. So when we go out and walk, we've got all these strangers. And then, of course, we have the issue that, hey, it snows here. Snow gets deep. People rent a car in Denver. They come up. They can't get to the house. The sheriff's department, we aren't a towing business. No, you have to call someone to tow you. But we have that issue. And then while they park it on the road, well, you park it on a road that you're trying to plow with a grader, so it is a big issue. But
And other points along those lines, and to your point, I'm aware of a specific instance in the Cascade area. Big house owned by an Army Lieutenant Colonel. He is not there. He's renting out into big groups because that's how he makes a lot of money with it. And these big groups then park all over the place, and they actually now produce safety hazards where you can't get a fire truck down the street because all of these vehicles are parked. You can also have these conversations about noise ordinances, but a lot of noise ordinances are not enforceable. Basically, they're not enforceable in Colorado. So it comes down to, there are some basic things that we can try to force, but I think we're going to be fumbling around and searching and hunting and not getting into a good place until we define what's commercial versus private action.
In El Paso County with a large group, if they're consistently bringing large groups in, that to me, under our land use codes, that would be an event.
Special event.
Yeah, they.
Well, it's like they're being rented out for a family to have a family reunion, and then there's 10 cars there.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
I don't have the information. There are some appellate court decisions that are either in process or been delivered. Don't know that it's Colorado. I don't have my notes in front of me, but that are defining that. And from what I can understand, it has not been defined as a commercial use. So, and I wish I had more on that. I didn't know we'd get into this conversation, but so there's that too. And I think that we're going to we have to start somewhere. And I think that we have the opportunity to refine it as we have experience with regulation and keep it. I always go back to that word balanced. So that's just my 2 cents, and that's just from having an active conversation. I know those guys are waiting on us. They're putting the pressure on us to figure it out for them first.
We were rushing into the flames. We figured we'd let you get first.
So
We're happy to.
one of the things we did in Cripple Creek, being a small town, rather than looking at the zoning issue, which Buena Vista said, we've got a motel operating in a residential area because they've turned each room of their house into a VRBO. What we did we're allowing the licensed short-term rentals to remain, and we're requiring any new license to be within X number of feet of the property line of an existing short-term rental. And because we're such a small community, that controls how many we can get on a block. And it's going to help us not deal with the zoning piece. because it will disperse them enough that in a small community where we can only grow so much. So that may be
Still an
something.
enforcement nightmare. We
Yeah.
had that and
Yeah.
we've kind of walked away from that.
I think all kinds of enforcement are gonna be really, really difficult.
I agree.
And sooner or later, until you get this definition of commercial and private action defined, you're gonna have people that are gonna be defending their actions as private action, and you're doing a taking of their rights. So we're gonna continue to, until that gets defined, I think we're gonna continue to find. But Dick, go ahead.
I was just saying, I'm sorry to let everybody down that rabbit hole. I really would like to talk about our,
Thank you, and I was going to do the exact same thing. I want to hear more about Alma, and I want to hear more about the senior coalition and some of the things you're doing. Do you have charts prepared, or is it a conversation?
We'll let Jenny go since she's part of the county.
Yeah, so if I can introduce, again, Jody Barker, I'm the director of the Area Agency on Aging. As you know, we administer the Older Americans Act and Older Coloradans Act funding into the 3-county region. And thank you, Commissioner Elsner, for both the kudos to PPACG. It was a very difficult time on top of the pandemic and the challenges that presented. But we really needed to take action to make sure that the seniors of Park County receive the services that they can access. And so, Jenny Danner is the executive director of the Park County Senior Coalition and is one of our contractors. We now have 2 contractors in Park County. We're really excited about that. So Jenny will share more about her programs here in with the Park County Senior Coalition. And then on Zoom, we have Betsy Hayes, who is the Director of Resource Development with Mount Evans Home Health Care and Hospice. And they are one of our newest providers into Park County. And we'll let Betsy put their services in her own words. But we'll start with Jenny here in the room, and then a couple minutes with Betsy, and you can see what's going on around aging services.
Outstanding. Please.
Thank you all for letting me be here today. I have certainly learned a lot already. I'm Jenny Danner, the director of the Park County Senior Coalition. We are a nonprofit organization, and like Jody Barker said, a provider of the Area Agency on Aging. We work to keep seniors safely in their mountain homes. And that is our main goal. We provide several programs to do so. We provide programs around food, transportation, chore, homemaker, reassurance, and we also do case management as well. This past fiscal year, I'd like to share that we have had tremendous success. We've provided over 2,000 medical and grocery trips reimbursed. We've distributed 5,000 pantry and frozen meals. We've conducted 220 hours of case management and supported 314 hours of homemaking, which is similar to lighthouse cleaning. And we financed 138 mountain chores. So these are things like firewood, snow removal, things that contribute to the safety of a senior's home and keeping them in their home. The total amount served was 742. So we are very excited about this because we provided 4 times more programs this year than we did the previous year, and we served almost double the amount of total clients served. This shows that we're reaching more seniors, that we're working very hard, but it also shows that there is a very large need here. And especially coming out of the pandemic, especially as our aging population continues to grow every single year, we're gonna continue to see that increase, and we need to be able to match that need. So we do serve the entirety of Park County. We serve about 40% of the Fairplay, Alma, Hartselle, Como Jefferson area, and then about 40% in the Grant, Shawnee, Bailey, Pine Junction area, and then about 20% in Guffey, Lake George, Southern Park County area. So as you all experienced today driving here, all of these communities are extremely far apart. They're very spread out. So we do serve all of those communities, and actually I would like to highlight a project that we did to try to tackle this geographic issue. We worked closely with the AAA and Park County government, and what we did is we created a food accessibility project, and this project used CARES Act funding, and we utilized Park County government community centers that are in each main community throughout Park County. And what we did is put freezers stocked with frozen meals for our clients in each of these main communities so that our clients are able to access food where they live. And so this is really important with road closures and the mountain weather we experience here and lack of transportation options for those clients to be able to have food exactly in their own home area. So we serve about, so in total, there's probably 25% of the residents or more in Park County that are 60 years and older. And so as this continues to increase, we're going to continue to work closely with other organizations and the AAA and the town. We're also heavily involved in the transit study that's happening so that we can continue to meet that need that's growing every single year. So that's all I have for my update. Thank you again for letting me be here and share, and please feel free to ask any questions.
Just one quick question for me. The governance for the coalition, are you a 501c something?
Secret, yes.
501c3?
Yep.
Okay, great. And so you've got a board.
We do. We have 6 board members and we have representation from each main community in the board. And then we also have the director of Park County's Department of Human Services on our board, Susan Walton, who's been a great attribute to our board.
And you obviously work with public agencies. They're providing resources or some funding and so forth, but do you also pursue private funding?
We do, yes. We seek every option for funding that we can get.
I'll tell you why I bring that up, and I'll just finish with this. I think that's a model that works in the Colorado Springs, El Paso County area. These private nonprofits, but also sometimes for-profits that can work in the private space, but then also interact with the public space. And have to, in order to do everything they have an interest in doing, they've got to be delivering outcomes that meet the interests of both of these environments. And I think that that's a model that just really, really works. It works well for us. It sounds like it's working here. It seems to be something that happens a lot. And I just appreciate that it's coming out that way also up here in Burke County.
And it works really well. And to give you just a quick, you know, how big Park County is, it takes me, my end of Park County, 1 hour and 45 minutes to drive to Guffey, which is on the southern end of Park County. And that's what they're confronted with is the distances to get around this county are tremendous. And to be able to have something in Guffey that they can get their food, you know, and have it all around, I think was just, when they came up with that idea, it was like, oh, wow.
And square miles of park.
We're 2,200 square miles.
We do, yeah. We're very close to you. We're just a little bit less.
Yeah, but you don't have Red Hill,
Yeah.
Kenosha.
No, you don't have any of that.
You know, I've been to Eastern El Paso County. And it looks very urban and it's very strange.
I think you had your hand raised, and then I think Commissioner Stone had hers.
Yeah, can you just talk about what you attribute such an increase in services over a year, or why?
Absolutely. So we have really dedicated our time towards programs, following through, and outreach. So we're definitely trying to reach more isolated seniors, and we're also making sure that we serve every community throughout Park County. That was something we had heard was an issue with the organization before, was that we were only serving the Fair Play area, and that 40% Bailey, 40% Fair Play really has grown tremendously. That statistic has doubled for Bailey as well, that we are truly serving that side of the pass. And then also Southern Park County, we're really trying to do outreach there in Lake George and Guffey and increase that 20%.
So it's really more about your outreach, not about influx of.
It's definitely both.
Well, yeah, you look at it, 62% of the people that live in Park County live on the other side of Kenosha Pass. And that was a group that really wasn't getting any service. Once Jenny got there, it's like, we're going to move in that direction. So, you know, you're going to have a lot of growth when you have 60% of the people aren't getting any service and suddenly they get service. And it's the same thing. You know, Guffey's a pretty good sized community. you drive around there, you think, oh, there's nobody here, but it's a pretty good sized community down in Guffey, and the same thing with Lake George. So it's reaching out and the work that they have done to actually get out and get people involved, which is, I think, the tremendous help that we have. Because we do have a lot of seniors, and, you know, people that are seniors in Park County have a tendency to be very independent thinking. And it's like, and it's like, we're here to help, let us know. And then, you know, to keep making outreach, our veterans people, it's the same thing, getting a hold of the veteran and just saying, hey, if you need help, give me a call. We're here to help you, but we're not going to get in your face. But that is helping quite a little bit. I mean, to show you how independent we are, we had one gentleman 4 or 5 years ago who was building a house, and he didn't have enough money to build the house or put in the septic. So he was digging the septic system himself, and he's 72 years old, and he was making really good progress. But the county stepped in, because someone said, hey, this guy really needs help. The county stepped in, and we made a deal with him to where, okay, we'll put in your septic, we'll do these things to build your house. This is what it's going to cost. We want to put that lien against your property. So when you sell your property, we can recover some of our costs back. But other than that, the county helped him get into his house. So those are the things that we try to do in the senior coalition is just spectacular in starting to get to reaching out. Because the biggest thing, especially going into the holidays, is a contact. You know, we've got a couple other organizations that try to contact seniors just to have that. We know you're there, you're here, you got anything, you know, the sheriff's department is working with us on making calls, you know, as we get closer to Christmas, just wellness check with a gift card, box of candy, that type of thing.
Sure stuff.
Yeah, just a question for you on, I know with Teller Senior Coalition that, you know, they service down into El Paso County, Green Mountain Falls, Topeka Park. And they also, I know they're provide a lot of service to Eastern Park County, Lake George, Guffey, et cetera. How do you feel like the cooperation is there? Is it cooperative? And, you know, and if not, how can we help to ensure? Because obviously from Teller Senior Coalition being located out of Divide is only 15 miles from Lake George versus, you know, 50 miles from here, right?
Yes.
So is that working well, or could it work better? You know, I guess how can we help?
I would say it's working very well. I work closely with Kathy Lowry. She is absolutely fantastic from the Teller Senior Coalition. And we really appreciate that fact that we do have clients that live in Park County, but they could be 4 miles from Teller. And so to be able to utilize those services that are close to their home, and especially your transportation services, are amazing. So we are working together and seeing how we can partner, how we can make the resources we do have go further, and ideas with possible transit routes and connecting with the Teller routes that are already existing there. So I think just continuing to work together and try to, that tri-county draft was just completed for transportation, looking at connecting these 3 regions so that people can get where they need to go, especially if they're going to Colorado Springs for doctor's appointments.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the collaboration has just blossomed and truly exploded because Lake George is somewhat split and so close in so many ways to the Teller County. The partnership between Jenny and Kathy, between the 2 coalitions, has just been fantastic in the way that we can continue to serve and meet those needs. And a couple of things I want to highlight is not just the outreach, but she has gained so many more volunteers as part of that outreach that it's not Jenny or someone here from the office going out to that freezer in Guffey or Lake George to distribute that meal. She has local and truly local close by volunteers who help serve that project. So it's not a project of one, it's a project of many that's making this work to make sure that our older population are served. It's really exciting in that way. Those of you who are on the bus, when you go through Lake George, look on your left, a big yellow building, the Lake George Community Center. That's where one of the freezers are. It's really just a brilliant concept that is actually being recognized by our State Unit on Aging at CDHS right now as truly meeting the need based on the challenges of the environment. And it came up again in a meeting just last week, here, the freezer project, as it's come to be known. And I said, it's a collaboration between county and service provider and volunteers. And so it's just really exciting to see where Park County Senior Coalition was and where they are today and the services that they're providing. I would also just, if I may, just explain a little bit, some of the services, because of the challenges of access to services, transportation, and some others, the homemaking services, those are really a client-directed and what we consider a neighbor-to-neighbor service. So an individual who has the need can choose someone to do that work or to provide that ride and then get reimbursed for it. Because as Commissioner Elster said, you know, the transportation is challenging here. And so much of our funding actually goes into what's known as a voucher program, and it allows the senior, the older adult, to make arrangements and to then reimburse the individual who's providing that direct service. So it's a really win-win situation across the county.
Yes, please.
I'm not a board member, but I have the South Halton County as my district, and looking at ways that we can use the neighbor transportation voucher component to link up to transportation from Teller to go farther into services within either Woodland Park or Colorado Springs is some things that we've brainstormed. And so, you know, it's easy to be able to pick up your neighbor and get them to a bus stop, make sure they're on safely so that they can go their way, and then arrange that pickup again. And so that's some of the brainstorming we've done to get these more rural area services. So it's working.
Right, if no other questions.
Any other question? Yeah, I'm sorry, go, please go
I'm
ahead.
happy to introduce Betsy. Betsy Hayes, if you are ready. There we go. So Betsy Hayes, like I mentioned before, she's the Director of Resource Development with Mount Evans Home Health Care and Hospice, one of our newest providers into the Area Agency on Aging system. So Betsy, would you share a little bit about your services and how you're gonna, who you're gonna be serving?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you for everything that you guys are doing. The county is huge, and we are in the healthcare space, and we're on the other side of the pass. As I almost piped in earlier when you were talking about Bailey and the Platte County Chamber of Commerce, because we are in that space. So what we do is we are Mount Evans Home Health Care and Hospice. And for over 40 years, we provide all of the in-home professional health care for residents across a 4-county area. So we serve Clear Creek, Gilpin, Jefferson, and Park. But we just serve that little slice of Park that is on 285 going out towards Shawnee. So that's where we are. And our nurses and physical therapists and occupational therapists, social workers go into the homes of people who are recovering from a serious illness. Maybe they are have wound care that needs to be happening. We've got hospice care. We have free grief services. So that's what we do. And so they drive all over, and with 4 counties. Last year it was 350,000 miles that were driven by our clinicians, delivering 26,000 patient visits. And we are a nonprofit 501c3. Our services are funded by Medicare, Medicaid, traditional insurance, and then my job of the fundraising. How we got involved with PPACG is because of Dr. Cog, actually. We get a grant from Dr. Cog for the last bunch of years, and for senior services, counseling, that sort of things. And we also are running free foot clinics in the communities in which we serve. And so these are held at like a community center or a senior center, something like that. And it gives our professional clinicians a chance to get eyes on seniors because they're rural. I mean, they live 20, 40 minutes off a highway on a dirt road. they don't get out much. They do have food insecurities. They do have housing challenges. They have all those things going on in their life. And so what we do is we are providing free foot clinics in the communities. So the seniors will come and we work with the senior centers to try to figure out the transportation challenges. But we bring them in and our team, they get right down there and they, check their feet. They're giving them free pedicures, taking care of them. They get free blood pressure checks. It just gives us a chance to see them and then also to let them know, like, here's the type of services. Oh no, did I lose? Oh, phew. It's really windy here today. I'm in Evergreen and we're losing internet back and forth. But I just wanted to let you know that we've been doing these foot clinics and we were doing them in Conifer on 285. And we had people that were driving from Bailey over to Conifer. And DRCOG was willing to pay when it was just one or two, but then it became more people. And so then what we did is DRCOG said, we're not going to pay for that anymore, but you should reach out to PPACG. And so that's what we just did in this last year, because we had run a couple of foot clinics in Bailey at our own expense, and it gets expensive. We're a nonprofit. And so you all were generous enough to give us a grant to get those up and running. And so that's what we're working on. And, the goal is to try to have one about every other month, see how it's going, see, what the volume is and that sort of thing. But this way people can be, our staff gets paid and they're professionals so they can really see what do these seniors need and they can drive from wherever. And if they drive up and over the pass, of course, we would still serve them because it's Park County, but we really are kind of targeting that little pocket you mentioned earlier that is on the other side of the pass and doesn't have a mountain of services. We want to make sure they know that we're there. So if somebody's having an end of life situation or, needs home health care, they know that, Mount Evans Home Health Care and Hospice is there to reach out.
Thank you so much, Betsy.
So are there any questions about what we're doing or?
Well, I don't know who might be the right person to answer, but just dawned on me, is there an assisted living center?
No.
No, and that's what makes it really challenging. I mean,
Yeah.
we have a 4-county area with really barely any assisted living. So our team is totally used to driving 40 minutes to go to someone's home and help them. And it's not just a 5-minute appointment. They sit down, they talk to them, if they're taking meds. Do you understand why you're taking these meds? Let's make sure that this is the right thing. If they need physical therapy because they broke a hip and they live alone in Bailey, we have people like that. They cannot drive. So our team goes to them to help them get back on their feet and up and running.
Yes,
So I've got a question and it goes back to last year's homestead property tax initiative that was going on for seniors.
Yep.
Are you guys hearing that some of these seniors are at risk of losing housing because their property taxes have now gone beyond their ability to pay?
I haven't heard that yet, but for, like I said before, we've been talking about, or all of you have been talking about, the housing challenges that are being faced and, food insecurities. From the healthcare perspective, my job is fundraising and grants, individual donations. We serve people regardless of the ability to pay. So if they cannot afford our services, we don't say no. We still go, and the work that I do covers the staff expense for that. So I don't know about the taxes and things like that, but they would still get served in the healthcare space.
Yes, Councilmember Avila.
Have you gone to homes where the seniors have passed?
Cats? Like
Passed.
cats?
By the way,
Died.
Passed away, yes.
Oh, passed. Oh, yes. Yes, because we do our
So that you're kind of surprised. You get there and then you find that they passed.
yes, that has happened to us. We might get a phone call from a neighbor. Usually what happens if a neighbor finds somebody who has passed away, they call the police. if it's one of our patients and there's information, we also get a call. If, we do a lot of hospice care, end of life, helping both the patient who is about to pass, as well as any family or relatives, handle that journey. So we know kind of what's happening in the house. Our team goes and pronounces if somebody has passed away that's in our care. But we do get called. I mean, they don't need our care if they're already gone, not to be, totally blunt about it, but, we do what we can to help the families if that person is already gone. So we have free grief counseling. You can do remote grief counseling. You don't have to drive all the way to our office, which is in Evergreen. We have services that are, telehealth kinds of things if you can't get in for group, but that's all free. That's all supported by fundraising or the hospice benefit under Medicaid.
And a question for me, and I can speak to this from personal experience about my mom recently in the last year going into assisted living and how important it was for the family to be part of convincing her to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hopeful, but you can maybe provide some insights that in a lot of these clients that you have, really for any of you, that you've got family engagement as well. Because,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's like so important because these folks, as independent as they may be, they eventually are going to get to a place where it doesn't make any difference. They just can't be there anymore, and they really need to either move in with a family member where they can get more continuous care, or go to assisted living where they can get 24/7 care. So I think the way to do that is having family engagement. So that's the question, family engagement?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And, we go to people no matter where their home is. So if there is an assisted living and they need our services, like you were saying, like an end of life type of thing, we would come in. I mean, that just means that there's nothing else that can be done from a medical perspective. And it doesn't mean you're going to pass tomorrow. You could pass in 24, 48 hours, 6 months, 2 years. Average length of stay in a hospice program is more like around, 60 to 80 days. And those people could be in their home or they could be in an assisted living. And then we are going in and our social workers are going in, working with the families. If you have a neighbor, because a lot of these people live alone, as we've discussed, if a neighbor is in there kind of as a caregiver, we're working with them as well. Because like I said before, this journey is not just about the person who there is nothing else medically can be done. This journey is about everyone else being able to figure out how do you have that in perspective? How do you support the one that's going and then support each other that go on?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Other questions?
Other questions.
And okay, we've got the list of everybody online as well. It's also open for anybody online if you have questions. Okay, well, thank you. What else do we have on the presentation?
Thank you.
Fair play.
Fair play.
Yeah. So just to add a few things about short-term rental, that maybe you haven't seen elsewhere that we hope that we are setting the bar with is we adopted ours May 1st. Well, actually it went into effect May 1st. We did set a cap based upon our available housing units here. And so we're very strict in our guidelines. We require a site plan, a detailed site plan that they have to set forth where their trash pickup is, where their parking is, if they have a fire feature, just all kinds of things. We require annual inspections for anything that is like a fireplace or that natural gas of some type of thing, just to safety of the community. We also worked with our fire protection district and they require an annual inspection by the fire protection district to sign off on. One of our last things that we also do is our building official, we're a small community, so we're able to do this. Our building official goes in and conducts an inspection too. to verify that the site plan is accurate and to talk with them about like parking, making sure the parking is all contained on site. We also require an additional contact that has to be available within 1 hour of any issue. And so we also post on our website those units that are licensed with the license number and the owner and their phone number. And it's like, if you have an issue, you're coming back before our board and you may have your permit revoked. And, you know, we just, like I said, started this in May. We allowed 1 per person or entity. And then I think the last thing would be to encourage your staff to think outside the box. We are also hopeful that as part of our land use processes, that we will encourage our developers to dedicate deed restricted units. We have put in that if they will, during zoning or subdivision or PV, if they will dedicate a deed restricted affordable unit, we will provide for an additional short-term rental in that subdivision. So hopefully help them sell a unit, but then also keep a teacher or a fireman or someone to be able to afford a house here. I think the other thing I was going to say, and I'll send this all to Andy, but I said, encourage your staff to think outside the box. How can you incentivize your developers to provide those as well? So we'll see how it goes. Like I said, we thought we would have an issue. We only allowed 20, and I still have only issued 15. I have a couple in process, and we're just beginning our renewal process, but ours is 300 no matter what, and it's renewable annually. And if you miss a deadline, too bad, you don't get your permit. And we don't have any waiting list, and we were just like, let's try to keep it simple and straightforward, and there will be penalties if you have issues. So we were hoping with the website, you know, at least neighbors can say, this is where our unit is at. And when they see cars that are out of state, they're contacting us saying, hey, we noticed there's additional, you know, activity over here, that type of thing. So we really tried to focus on protecting our community with our regulations. And so we'll see how it all goes. Like I said, this process.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Councilmember Henderson.
Yeah, so you sort of addressed this, I think, but you're funding through a $300 in your income, is that how you're funding it? And catching scofflaws, people looking at what's happening around them, is that how you?
Sort of we started with our, the ones that were already licensed, so they were, but yeah, I think for us, we're a small enough community that everybody knows everybody, and when they see, where they know that a property changes hands, they know, you know, if there's all these other out of town cars, they're gonna say, hey, notice this. And so, but we do a lot of driving around. We have an active mayor who drives like the town every day.
So the mayor is code enforcement.
Yeah, myself, I drive the streets a lot looking at things, and so yeah, we're just, I think the more local control you can put in place and those, you know, protections for your community and give yourself that ability to revoke those licenses. So so let's see, other things going on here. Transit, we are accepting 2 transit buses from the city of Cripple Creek and the Cripple Creek Care Center, which went out of business. So we will be implementing a transit program here in Fairplay. So that's why I'm excited about this study and working with the county and Alma, some of the other communities. Hopefully looking forward to applying for innovative mobility grant to help fund part of that, since I missed the super call. We are in process of updating our unified development code. Our processes are outdated, contradictory. Of course, we're also working on building in some stuff for affordable and workforce housing. As far as workforce housing, we're looking forward to partnering with the county, who's looking at building a project here in town. We were notified by the Department of Transportation that they have full funding to build a workforce housing project here in town. And so we'll be looking forward to, it's currently out for RFP, And so we hope that that will be coming out of the ground. So it does create some other things, issues for rehoming or Summit Stage, but I think there's a lot of potential to work together with them to with CDOT on, housing those, but also working with our school district potentially to help them. It's right across the street from the school, to maybe do some work at the school site to build a program for mechanics and having them come in and teach things about, working for CDOT. So we're hoping that it will, like I said, have some ancillary effects if we can get this all done. We're also working with CDOT on our MMOF River Park grant. We did get our IGA signed. We're on to the next step. And so excited about that. Thank you all for that money. I think Commissioner Elsner touched on this. Water, big deal. So when I interviewed here, that was my first question. What is the build out of this community based on water? And they're like, fine. It's like, get hired, you're like, oh, okay, we're not fine. We're already at capacity. The one thing that we do have going here is that there was an infiltration gallery built like 25 years ago, and it was never put online. And the contractor ran away with the plans. And so before I did get here, they did contract. So we've got an engineer that has been able to get it working. And so we are working with state and the SRF to get a grant to bring that online and permit it, which will double our capacity, but we've got a lot of projects coming forward. So we're gonna have to look at the potential of even another water plant here. And of course, we're divided by the river, so we need infrastructure on the other side. So it's been very interesting and eye-opening, but we're working because this is the county seat. This houses all the state, federal, and local government offices and all the services. So it's exciting times. There's a lot going on. Another thing is that we purchased, the town purchased the 501 main building from the county when they vacated it and moved into this nice facility. And so we are working to rehabilitate that to become a community-wide building. We're hoping it will house our Chamber of Commerce. We're also, again, working with our school district to maybe offer some other educational opportunities there, like cooking classes, but it would also extend to the community, not just the school, but cosmetology, maybe some college classes. Our food bank operates out of there. So it's a great facility, but it's going to take a lot of money to bring it up to code. And so
if I might just ask a quick question, it was kind of quickly back to water. Do you have a lot of water available, but it's not an availability issue? It's about infrastructure
it's
to get.
infrastructure. Yeah,
Okay.
we actually, the Fair Play is very, very lucky. We have some of the oldest rights in the state.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we're lucky with that. And
then the infrastructure that you do have, that's public infrastructure that you're talking about?
yeah, the town has, we own the water, and we actually took on the sewer district years ago. It was a special district.
You have
We
water.
absorb that. So our sewer district extends outside the town's limits into part of the county. So we provide sewer to parts of the county just outside.
You have private providers for electricity.
We have Excel for electricity and natural gas. And
Yeah, electricity in Park County is a challenge
it's got a.
because it's, oh, well, this is Excel. Well, across the street is IREA or CORE.
Yeah.
So it is really interesting up here. I mean, a little south of the town is CORE, and this is Excel, and it's kind of like the phone service too. It's in the internet up here. It's a patchwork at best.
I think that one of our other projects for 2023 is getting broadband to our town. The town would like to be able to provide that. So we do have the county does have a broadband committee, and we'll work with them. Let's see, on 2023, I hope to get our board. We have one opening, and we should be appointing an additional member, and hopefully it will be stable for a couple of years. So in 2023, get some more representation from Fair Play on the board, and get them at the meetings more regularly. And then I think the last thing I was gonna mention is that our big CDOT 285-9 project is out to bid, and hopefully that is going to be awarded December 1st after they were able to get some additional funds. So we have no idea what that's gonna look like, but just real quickly, hopefully we can get some better communication about the project. And yeah, because like having this happen today, and we didn't even know about it at the town level until somebody else said, oh, did you see the sign outside of town? And we were like, okay. And so with that project, it's going to need to be statewide notifications because it's going to impact major routes to the Front Range and to the Western Slope. And then just last thing I was just going to say, well, of course, we're looking forward to partnering with the county, with Alma, with PPACG and other entities on a lot of projects, but also thank you to the PPACG board and the other member entities for allowing Andy and staff to provide some more focus on this side of the mountain. And we're excited about all the opportunities.
We're excited to be able to help wherever we can, so just let us know. Yeah.
Unless you have any other questions.
Well, I just wondered if I heard a request to see that in there.
Yeah, I mean, we will work with communication on the project. I was going to talk about, that particular project and so like.
And I have the direct number to our resident engineer, and he's been very good. And as soon as it gets bid out, we'll have a big community meeting again to bring whoever the contractor is in and CDOT, so we can talk about all of that.
Great. Thank you. Any other questions then for and do we have anybody here for Alma?
I don't believe we do.
No.
We'll need to work. I think they have a new town manager. I believe.
Yes, they do.
We did get his or her contact info and get them a little more connected, and we'll do some outreach with them.
Are they winning the battle on who's the highest altitude incorporated town?
They are. They are the highest. And if Leadville does something stupid and tries to annex something higher, I think the county is more than willing to allow Alma to annex some of the county. It's about that maintain the
You'll
road.
do a flagpole annexation to the top of a 14er, right? Or something. There you go. That's great. Well, Dick, do you have anything else?
Well, I was just gonna say, Fair Play has got a lot going on. Come up here during the summer. Borough Days is a huge thing. It is a lot of fun. It does have a race that used to be from Fair Play to Leadville, but Leadville got into an argument on Fair Play. And so it's up to the top of the pass and back down. It's referred to as get your ass up the pass. So you get your burro up the pass. It's a lot of fun to watch. I think have llama races. I know pre-pandemic we were getting really, really good at outhouse races. So there's a lot of fun things that go on in Fair Play and of course our fair.
Awesome.
We're doing a lot of really neat things here.
Great. I'll just open it up. Anybody else have any questions for any of our hosts and municipalities that are up here?
Well, I
Yeah,
have a
please.
question. Your area is spread out kind of like Alaska is. And I came out of the Federal Aviation Administration. Are you kind of looking at maybe some of the things that Alaska may be trying to do to try to service their residents up there? Because I know they're really heavily dependent on here. But we've got the advent of a lot of these drones coming in. And granted, most people think the drones are small, but you get big ones the size of a Predator. It's basically the size of an airplane. And so I didn't know if you were maybe looking at other remote areas of the country, maybe see if there's something that you could glean from that.
Great idea. We'll look at it. That's pretty ambitious for our budget, but we'll look if the military is selling any used drones. I mean,
So I came from down here, be North certified Predator.
Well, and to be fair to that, I mean, aviation is not an inexpensive approach. However, there's like Cessna 152s with big gigantic balloon tires that can land on almost anything. And it might be an interesting approach to service delivery. It is expensive, but you can cover a really wide area in a
Knowing,
really short time.
knowing some of the people in Park County, I do not want to fly a plane low and land in a field.
That's.
It is a dangerous thing to do.
Because it looks like it's hard.
Yeah.
So I'll bring this up. We've been approached by an out-of-state business to bring an electric aircraft in that can carry 6 passengers and it can land vertically. So it requires just a pad rather than a road. So they are looking at potentially base. It is commercially operating in other parts of this country. I'm sure you've heard of it, but they are looking at operating out of the Springs. But that would be beneficial to rural communities.
So this turns out not to be a trivial conversation about aviation.
Usually the dollars.
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem.
I think El Paso County, the people around me be getting shotguns out.
Yeah. That's
Sure.
We help send people out to deer trails. Please don't shoot at the aircraft. Line over your fields. You do not own the airspace.
They even look for the serial number on the back of my aircraft.
There was a time when the legislature was looking at enabling the search and rescue to use drones and all of that, and there was a bill, and Representative Wilson, who was our representative at the time, was sponsoring this because it was a really, I think, a great idea. But it was someone from Park County who went there and testified against it because she didn't want them running their drones over while she and her friends were running naked through the woods. And I mean, that is true. It is actually in testimony. So that's when you get to Park County, you have to be very careful if something's flying.
Well, I haven't been too engaged in unmanned aircraft, but prior to running for office, I founded UAS Colorado, the business league for unmanned aircraft in Colorado. So I'm the founding CEO of that business league, which has 500 members based out of Denver, and they're very, very active. Great. Well, okay, there's an aviation discussion in there. So I guess we can maybe conclude with that. I just would like to seriously thank, first of all, you hosting us here. I think I can probably speak for the other board members. I learned a lot about what's going on in Fairplay and in Park County. That's kind of the point, frankly, but it was also really just interesting to really listen to some of the challenges you have, some of which are common to what the rest of PPACG has, and others which are, you know, you have your own unique issues as well. So those are really cool. So I think it's great that we came up here and listened to some of this. Yeah. Are there any other comments anybody would like to make on the board before we move to the next topic? Yes, please. Oh, well, go ahead, Andy.
I just want to make sure you weren't going to adjourn because we did have to have some CDOT.
Yes, we're not adjourning yet. We've got more on the agenda. That is correct. Thank you. Okay, very good. So I think we can, that was 7C.